Hello, everybody. And once again, welcome back to another Saturday night and embracing bonelessness. And tonight is going to be, we're going to have Desatu again, sharing a little information. And then, like we usually do, if there's any questions or any way that people like the information filled out or anything at all, we'll do that afterwards. And there's lately, especially, been some nice conversation after we're done too. So we'll probably leave the recording going just in case we have that going on, and if not, then of course I'll just edit it. But yeah, that's what we're going to do today. So as you may be becoming familiar, we're doing this a little differently now. It's not so much so formal as far as the shift that goes on with me. We're going to do it. We've been doing it in a way that's a little bit more seamless, which is intentional. Again, on Desatu's part, uh, kind of reinforcing the idea that really this stream of information is alive in everybody. And you can tap into it whenever. In fact, it pops into your life probably many times during the day. Some are just a little bit more familiar with paying attention to it than others are. So we will, of course, greet you as we have done in the past. And and we're going to begin today on a bit of an esoteric note. I mentioned something that you've heard before in various ways, and we want to begin this way so that when we move into the idea that we're going to share, there's a bit of a foundation underneath it. So you exist basically in two states perpetually. One as awareness, but not awareness of at all, just awareness. And then you exist as awareness of you. So we're going to describe just a bit of a metaphor. So imagine somebody who, perhaps in their mid 20s, had some sort of a bizarre process that began in their body and found that their legs and their arms were not functioning at all. And it was like this for, we're just going to pick a number and we'll say 5 years. And then almost as rapidly as it began, it goes away. And of course, with that freedom of movement again comes an exuberance to explore what it is they haven't been able to explore. They, in fact, probably had no idea what was going on in the world around them. And so they go out and explore it to their heart's content. And everything they do, they enjoy because they've been able to do nothing for such a long period of time. It doesn't really make any difference what it is. And so, as spirit, as some may call those deeper aspects of yourself, or as consciousness, as the word that we typically prefer, you're in fact constantly exploring all of what you are. You are always, in that regard, in action. You are always exploring. You could even say accurately that as consciousness, you are action. And in that, all of what you explore is yourself. Because, of course, you are all of consciousness. And you are a vantage point of consciousness simultaneously. And so you move through the substance of yourself, having endless experiences, exploring and creating endlessly, and having the experiences of your explorations. All the various ways that you create out of yourself because there is only consciousness. There is only you as consciousness, existence as consciousness, as an action, as to utilize language, which we must, something that is occurring, something that's noticeable that's occurring. And it occurs in, of course, many ways. So, regardless of what goes on, whatever it is that you're experiencing is consciousness. Everything that you will ever experience, in whatever way you do it, is consciousness. Now, some of the ways that you have those experiences are through filters that you develop to have the experiences that you're having. However, how you have the experience is not, in that regard, what is important to you. What's important to you is the experience that you're having. And in that regard, whatever it is you're doing, and however it is that you are doing it, you're always experiencing yourself as you express and configure consciousness. And because all things are consciousness, all of your experiences, regardless of what they are real. They can't be anything else. So we've mentioned previously associated to some degree with the idea of the ego and some of the concepts that flow from that word, especially as it relates to concepts and ideas that flow from the East, where a distinction is made between the ego self and you. We, of course, have a little different slant on that experience. And we use the metaphor of walking out of your home with different types of clothing on. And even though the clothing that you wore changed your experience, it was still you wearing the clothing. You were the one having the experience. So again, the same is true here. The ego, yes, has filters. In fact, that is what it is. It's a certain type of filters, a certain layering of filters that you utilize to have this experience in particular ways. And of course, everybody's way of having the experience is quite unique. Then there is the idea that the experience that you're having is an illusion. And again, even though, yes, the way that you're having it is different than the way that you believe that you're having it from within the experience, still, what's actually going on is that you are having an experience brought about by you configuring the energy of consciousness to have that experience. And you do this again in countless ways. And all of those ways are the valid experience of you exploring yourself. So, in that regard, there is nothing illusionary about what it is that you're doing here. It is just another exploration of yourself in the way that you were doing it in this place. In common language, people will say, well, that's only your imagination, or that's not actually real, or terms like that. And again, this goes back to the idea that an idea that really, for many years, as your civilization has had the experience that it's had with your planet, that you find to be quite comforting is to be able to compare your experiences to somebody else's and to have those experiences be similar in various ways. And to make distinctions about what reality is and what reality is not. And typically, of course, the idea of what reality is are those things that come to you through what you term your five senses. These are the things that throughout history you've grown to believe that you can trust in. That if somebody sees something, somebody else sees it the same way or very similar. Or if you hear it, or if you taste it, or if you feel it. And you give yourself some leeway with some of those things. But again, those days of looking to other individuals and having the idea that your experience was the same and that that will be reinforced by what those other individuals share with you, those days are rapidly fading away for all of you. Because again, you're in the midst of your shift in consciousness. And not actually in the midst of it, you are more than halfway through it. And in that, the uniqueness of your own experience will come to the forefront more and more and more frequently. Now, of course, if you've explored for a while, you have the association of other individuals who are doing the same thing. And so, in that, you can discuss things that are occurring in your life, and you listen to the other individuals discuss things that are occurring in your life. And sometimes there's some similarities, many times there's differences. And depending on where you are in your exploration, you either find that everybody is okay with there being differences, or you might find that some people are a little bit uncomfortable with the idea that even your metaphysical explorations are different and not the same. But again, you're all beginning to grow beyond those limitations that you once placed on yourself. As your 1950s and 60s and 70s showed up, and you began to explore who and what you were as far as those non-physical aspects of yours were concerned, you, of course, were going to compare your experiences and the information you were getting from various individuals with what you believed to be your real experience in that regard. Now, as you've moved into your new millennium, and as you have, as we've mentioned before, now inserted your shift into your lives around your planet, meaning it's much more than just gathering information for most individuals now. It's about having the experiences that are leading you in the direction that all of you are headed. And as you do that, you will find that the uniqueness of your own exploration is, in fact, just that. It is quite unique. You may have it in similar situations. You may go to the same restaurant. You may go to the same movie theater. You may go to the same fair, whatever it might happen to be. But the experiences you'll find yourself having there are quite unique. And you'll become increasingly used to that. You also have experiences where, in particular, if there are other aspects of you within this physical dimension, regardless of the timeline, that are involved with activities that are similar, that you'll find that You are becoming aware of those activities, those other expressions of that larger you, which of course is you, at an increasing rate. And so the idea of what is real will increasingly be questioned by individuals because you're coming from a place where you had very, perhaps we'll say, strong ideas about what it was that was real and what it was that was not real. As experiences of those types begin to occur in increasing ways in various individuals' lives, it's not only going to be happening with individuals who've been explorers, who consider themselves to be explorers. It also will begin happening with individuals who are just living a normal life and had no idea that these types of explorations were being had in the ways that they are being had by the people who do explore them. And so when they have experiences like this, it's going to, perhaps we'll say, rock their boat a little bit. They may believe that their mental capacities are having some issues. They may look for information. You may get questioned by an individual that overhears you in a conversation at some point, or hears from somebody else that you explore things like this. And with those individuals, of course, what you'll need to do is to listen to them first to see where they are in their exploration. And then you can share from that place information that helps them to understand that the changes that are going on within their reality is not because they are, in that regard, losing their mental faculties in any way, shape, or form, but that it's a natural response to something that's happening actually globally. So your reality and what you consider to be real is something that will change at an increasingly rapid rate, especially as the next several years go by. You use millenniums to express particular types of themes. Within that, you use centuries to do the same thing. And as a book has chapters in it, you use decades to do that as well. And sometimes there are other cycles that you utilize as well. A quarter century is something that's important as well, which you just found. So as you move into your third decade and beyond it, you will find that the language, the way you're using technology, the freedom of exploration will change. It will expand. And it will do this in a way that is comfortable for individuals around you or not as comfortable for individuals around you, to some degree dependent on how you are with all of that as it goes on. Because again, of course, you do exist, as you always have, in a reflective, we'll just utilize this word, universe. But in that, of course, as you continue your journey, if you recognize that there are situations that you would like to have show up differently for you, you'll be able to address those in a shorter period of time and to turn those energies around simply by taking a different stance on how it is that you perceive, shall we say, the situations that are around you. And of course, all the ways that you gain information will become part of this, whether it's the information that shows up for you in the forests, the information that shows up for you in dream time, the information that shows up for you through children, the information that shows up for you through animals that you interact with, through music, through dance, through whatever it might happen to be. There are many, many ways that information can show up for individuals. And all that, of course, will be increasing. At the same time, as we and others have mentioned, it's really not about getting to a particular place that you are so much interested in. It's about the experiences that you have as you move from, we'll say it in this regard, one location to the next. Because if you think of it, regardless of what goal you set for yourself, whenever it is that you got to that goal, your life did not end then. You then continued. You expanded whatever was going on then at the place that you reached your goal to then become something different. There's never a place in your life where you're static in that regard. And that's because it is the experience that you relish so very much. Imagination is a very powerful communication channel for you. And we'll remind you that if you can imagine something, it exists within consciousness. Then, however, you begin to create the experiences of getting to that thing that you imagined, which again, for you, is the fun of the whole situation. To have the experiences en route to whatever your destination may be. Because, of course, the destination is just part of the journey heading to the next place. And all the experiences that ensue as you're heading there and then beyond it are those things that in your earth language you live for. You cherish all of those. And so, as the months and the years progress at an increasing rapid rate, what it is that you once considered real and unshifting in your reality will become much more malleable, regardless of what it is. Yet, it is all real because it is all you and it is all consciousness. It is all a part of your experience. And if you can realize that there have been a number of times in your life where you've been in situations where maybe try as you might, things were going on that were, shall we say, out of your control, and yet they worked out for you. Things showed up, perhaps just in the nick of time, and sometimes in ways that were quite comfortable. Other times, maybe a little more abruptly. But eventually, things show up to move you beyond whatever the challenging situation is. And as you've moved into places in your lives where you begin to trust that process more and trust yourself more, then those things can begin to show up in your life in an easier way, in a little more flowy way, shall we say. Not quite so challenging. However, as things change around you, and as what it is that you've come to count on to be stable, as it has historically, begin to fluctuate and move and become something different, it's that trust in yourself that will be so very important in those times. And as you do that, you'll find yourself settling in to that movement that you have going on. Because, of course, it is your movement that's going on. And so in this, tonight is really not about sharing information with you that You're unaware is going to be part of your process. But again, just to remind you how much your process it actually is. And in that, you can trust it. And how powerful it will be for you to not worry about the types of experiences that you have around you that you may not be able to explain to other individuals. And some of you are much comfortable with this already, others are getting there. Just embrace those experiences as experiences that show up in your existence for reasons that sometimes it might take you a little while to figure out. Other times you may have an awareness of as they occur. But of course, for you, they are real, even if they're very different than somebody else's is. And so, in that, that's what we wanted to share with you tonight. If you have any questions or if you have anything you'd like us to expand on, please feel free, and we'd be happy to share whatever we can with you. Whoa. So, as you are all probably aware, when we share information, we have done so in a collaborative way, meaning that all of us have gotten together, shall we say, behind the scenes, and played with, perhaps we'll say, ideas that we can wade into and allow to flavor the energy of our life in a way that's just a little bit different than perhaps it has before. So that's what today really is about. That's what really all of the gatherings that we have are about. They're not necessarily about us sharing information with you that you don't have an awareness of. They're about what we're doing collaboratively with each other to stimulate movement, to stimulate ideas, to help people embrace their own unique experience and expression of what it is that you're doing. And we'll remind you of one more thing in a rather gentle way, that if you're feeling resistance from individuals around you, remember it's your resistance that you're experiencing. You just have to figure out why that it's there. Doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with you, doesn't mean that you're going about your process wrong. It really just is an opportunity to become increasingly familiar with yourself and the energy that you're projecting around you. And again, like all things, really, that deeper you appreciates the experience. Because again, from that vantage point, you don't label your experiences better or worse. To you, from that vantage point, they are experiences within physical reality, and you cherish them. Knowing, of course, from that vantage point, that nothing bad is ever going to happen. It's only, of course, from this vantage point that that's questioned, that it becomes difficult sometimes. But you will move through that. So we'll tie that particular subject matter up and see if there's any comments anybody has about anything that's going on that they feel is at the forefront of their mind at the moment or their feeling state.
I have a question or comment.
Go ahead,
Go
Jamie.
ahead, Jamie. Yeah, so one of the themes that's kind of in this talk, and I think in others as well, or this presentation, is the concept of projection and reflection, which you're just touching on. And so maybe just for us as a group to kind of think of that for ourselves personally, instances where perhaps, I'm feeling frustrated at my husband, for instance, and I'm like, gosh, I don't like feeling this way. Why am I feeling frustrated? And so on. And then the process that might occur for us as we move through that, like initially feeling an emotion that's maybe difficult or heavy, and then taking a moment to say, why am I feeling this? What are the beliefs that I carry that are creating this emotional response? What am I meant to learn through this process? Those kinds of ideas. So maybe it would be interesting to kind of toss around ideas for each of us as individuals. What process do we go through for our own self-growth and evolution when we feel that, as you mentioned, resistance? Anyway, just a curiosity, and I think it would be helpful for everyone to
Yes.
learn a little bit more about that.
And in that regard, one of the things that can help you to explore that a little bit more is that, of course, you are always making choices. That's what your existence always is choice after choice after choice after choice. If you find yourself at a place where you would like to make a choice, but you don't allow yourself to make a choice, pause in that moment and go, okay, what is it right now that prevents me from making that particular choice? And of course, if you can be very transparent with yourself, you can gain a lot of information. Now, that doesn't mean that what it is that you find out about yourself means that you have to make the choice that perhaps somebody else might say that's the choice you should make. You can, of course, can explore those reasons about why you're not making the choice and see what kind of changes you can make about those types of things. And again, it's never really going to be about changing the people in your life or changing the circumstances in your life in the way that most people believe it is. It's about you viewing things in a different way, you viewing yourself actually in a different way, because again, it's a reflective experience. There is not just one version of that individual out there. There's not just one version of any circumstance or situation out there. There are many. The one that you're experiencing has got a lot to do with whether you inhibit yourself or whether you allow yourself to flow in the way that you would like to see yourself flow. So if you find yourself inhibited in whatever way, shape, or form that is, if you can identify why that's going on and then put some attention on those movements, then you'll find that things will begin to open up for you. But putting your attention on the situation, the circumstance, or the individual that you believe is hindering things is putting your attention on someone who's not the person that's actually creating your experience, because it's you that's creating your experience. That's where your attention should be. It's easy, of course, to do the other because, of course, historically, that's always the way that individuals have looked at it. And of course, we'll say in this moment, rightly so, because of course that was your exploration then. Your exploration was an exploration where the rules and the guidelines of physical reality were very much in play. However, much less so now. All of that has changed. Now it's just taking the reins of the horse that you find yourself upon and steering it in the direction that you would like it to go. Where before, perhaps you sat in the back of the wagon and there was somebody else steering the horse, and you had to try to convince that individual to go the direction that you wanted to. That is no longer the case. The reins are now in your hands. Metaphorically speaking, of course.
Thank you. That was great. Thanks for all those ideas and clarifications. Sparkling, you can go ahead and ask.
My question is, how do I how do can I get it to become easier to trust myself? Like um, today when I was out walking by the water, um, I got scared, and even though I was muscle testing and I kept getting a yes to keep going the direction I was still dealing with a lot of fear and scared that I was going to have to turn around because it was already challenging to get as far as I had come. And so when you mentioned about trusting ourselves, I just wondered if there's a way to somehow make it easier or less challenging to trust myself.
So realize that the reason why you're challenged in this moment is all the experiences that you had that reinforced for you those types of feelings. So now what you're beginning to do is have experiences that are headed in the other direction. But those are few compared to the many that were quote unquote historically had in your life. So it's going to take a little practice with doing that. Each time you do it, it'll be better. And then something else to recognize about today is that even though there was a hesitation and a tentativeness, and from what you say, a certain amount of fearfulness in heading that direction, you continued to do it, did you not? So there is a trust that's there within you, in you. So there's the interplay going on now about which part of you are you going to pay more attention to. And as you have more and more of those experiences, you will see that trusting yourself worked out. And it'll get easier and easier and easier to do that. And before not too long, you'll hardly listen to that other part of yourself that says, we better not do that. We're going to have some issues if we do that. It'll be a faint voice someplace in the back. So just continue to do what you've been doing. And again, you've already found that you can rely on your friends, that when you have a need for their presence, they show up immediately, do they not? Yes, that will continue, of course, because that's what they're there for, is to support you in your process. So continue in that support, ask them for help when you need it, and continue to do the things that you did today, where you understand that even though you have some hesitation in things, if it feels still right that you can do whatever it is that you want to do, you'll see again that you'll be supported in that, just like you were today.
Thank you.
Again, in your physical experience, as in all things, it is about the experience. It is what stimulates you always in existence is experience. And so for you to move from where you are now to a place where you are totally confident in who and what you are, as much as you might like that, robs you of the experience of getting there. That you exist, otherwise you would have no place to go to. So that you is, of course, already there. But it's the experience of growing into that you so cherish and that you will cherish. When you get there through the journey that you'll be on, you will embrace who you are in a way that will be unshakable. Whereas if some way you can move from who you are now to that other you, you would find that somehow it might feel like you were missing something. And you would be, in those terms, the experience of the movement into that you. That is what you want to do. Think of it. You all do this all the time in your life. You don't just go from 3 years of age to 45 years of age. You progress through the years. You don't just go from kindergarten to a master's in college. You progress through the learning process. All of your existence is about that. It's about gaining experiences in all sorts of different ways. That's what you do perpetually in your existence as you go through different experiences. And in this particular dimension, there's a flow to it, a direction to it that you experience. It's an additive type of thing. Now, as you become increasingly aware of who and what you are, you will be able to jump around in that a little bit more. But still, you will utilize a fair number of the guidelines that you have in place still. You'll just utilize them differently. There'll be more flexibility with how you use them. But still, experience, like it always is, will be something that you will deeply cherish. Mm. Well, I'm feeling like we're heading towards tying this up. So I hope you guys have a fantastic evening. And it has been, as it always is, really great to experience everybody's energies that we get together and share all the things that we do together. And it seems like the idea that's popping in is to kind of pay attention to how your energy shifts and moves over the next several days. The kind of surprises, shall we say, or unusual things that pop into your life. Because I think our gathering tonight was about beginning those movements in a little bit more rigorous way for all of us. So yeah. But have a great night, guys. And yeah. And again, as a reminder, if anybody feels inspired to share anything new or something similar to something they've done before, just reach out, and perhaps we can head in that direction again too. Otherwise, of course, Desatu and I have always got stuff to chat about. So yeah. All right, guys, have a great night.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.